All right, we're going to start this meeting off. It is 7 o'clock. My name is Greg Dale. Welcome to the December 12th meeting of the Humboldt Bay Harbor Recreation and Conservation District. I would like to call us to order with a roll call.
Commissioner Gauss?
Here.
Commissioner Coleman?
Here.
President Dale?
Here.
Commissioner Marks?
Here.
And Commissioner Higgins?
Present.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ryan, would you like to report out on closed session?
Yeah, no reportable action.
All right. Public comment. At this point in time, we would take comment on items that are not on the agenda.
This.
Right.
Thank you.
For the public, my name is Todd Ranke. I am a tenant here at Woodley Island, also Ranke Marine at Phil's Landing. This is nothing more than something that can be found if you go back to December 3, 2015. And it's just a little minute of notes. And it is in consideration of installing gateways. November 6th, which is a week ago, we had an incident at 11 o'clock in the afternoon that, and this is just one, we've had several before, but an individual got on my vessel, and my vessel is quite large. It takes effort to get on my boat, and to get to the back of my boat, and to get to the back doors and try to gain entry to my boat. And he was thwarted by Corey and Robert, and I cannot say enough about those two individuals. They unbelievable. They're just absolutely fantastic. What could have been something that could have been very, very bad. I have a terminally ill wife that's 65 years old and 100 pounds. And what I'm bringing to attention here is that I feel the need for something needs to be done. This isn't the quiet place it once was. I know that the parking lot and the facilities are public, and that's fine. You know, we can get up every morning, go out and pick up used needles and used condoms daily, and that's part of where we live. That's part of Eureka, and everybody here feels that no matter where they live. When it comes to the slips, it is a different entity. That is not public. We are leaseholders with the government entity. That means it's private property. We pay taxes on that, as do any property owners in Humboldt County and elsewhere. And with that said, not bringing into the fact that, you know, most of these vessels are Coast Guard documented vessels. When people read up on Coast Guard documented vessels, what it actually means, it has a completely different meaning than just a boat or a porch. It's we give up the rights to our boats in time of need and of war, where the government can take them and use them. In return, we are treated differently with different sets of rules. I am also a current holding licensed merchant mariner with the United States Coast Guard. Usually we deal with the marshals. We usually deal with marshals. We usually do not deal with Eureka PD or sheriffs. That is part of what we're entitled as having Coast Guard documented vessels. The point of all this is I feel very strongly that we need to do what we can to get some kind of a security going. This is one of the very few places, and I've been in boating for over 30 years. I've been in all kinds of countries all over the world. This is one of the few that do not have any kind of security measures. Being that ends the public and it starts private, I think that we are entitled to something more than common gangways and just people coming and going. There's been 3 times people that came on board my boat and opened the door, and one girl actually walked into my living room. And this goes on. It's probably once or twice a month people walk up my steps. I have steps this tall. That's 9 stairs to get there. You know, this goes on and on and on. Thank you for listening to me. Merry Christmas to everybody, the commissioners, the staff, everybody involved, and everybody in the room. Hope you have a great safe holidays. Thank you.
This time we're taking comment for items not on the agenda.
Hi, my name is Robin Grace Stewart. I am the Marine Chair for the Redwood chapter of the Sierra Club. And we had heard in the recent storm, a billboard flew down by the bay. One of our chapter members talked to someone who works for the owner of the billboard and was told that they were filing for a permit to rebuild the billboard. And we just were wondering if you guys knew any more about that and whether the billboard is going back up or not.
We don't normally comment on public comment stuff, but we don't know.
I understand.
I will say that.
I wanted you to be aware that we're paying attention to this issue.
Thank you, so are we.
And, yeah, we are paying attention to it as well.
Thanks, Robin. At this time, we're continuing to take comments on items not on the agenda. All right, seeing none, we're going to move to consent calendar.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Just want to make sure that when we do the consent calendar, that we make it open to others, to see if there's anybody that wants to pull an item from the consent or discuss it.
Good catch. Anybody would like to pull anything from the consent calendar?
Thank you, Blue Lake. No, I don't want to pull things from the consent calendar, but if you have an opportunity, I think people might be interested in the financial aspects of that agreement.
So, moving on to communications and reports. Executive Director's report.
Just a couple of things. First, I wanted to follow up that we had two of our staff persons. There was a person that was on the island and was being disruptive, and as Todd had mentioned, went on the boat, and two of our maintenance crews basically approached them, contacted the Eureka Police Department, sort of followed that, called the police, and ultimately the police removed them from the island. And I just want to really commend our maintenance staff because this is beginning to be more and more of a common item that we're seeing on the marina, and it's just the security measures and other things are something that we're going to have to continue to be vigilant on and to look for other things. This one happened to be during the middle of the day, whereas other items were at night, sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, etc. Our staff went through the sexual harassment prevention training today, and it's mandatory that we do it once every 2 years, and so all of our staff went through that this afternoon. We also have a new credit card processing system that we're having for taking online bills and other things, and so kind of trying to improve the services and to be modern, et cetera. We did some holiday decorations out front, trying to make it festive. There was things that were up in the attic, and the staff was up there and pulled some things down, and so we put those out for the holidays. And then I also want to mention that there's a new boat and one that a vessel that we're working on kind of figuring out what we're going to do with it. There's a concrete vessel that they've been working on. I believe it's on Beach Dock. On Beach Dock. And so if you're in the marina, you might want to take a look at it. It's something that I'm in the process of kind of evaluating that vessel, whether we can allow that to be permanent stay. And so anyway, I'm just sort of bringing it to your attention to go by that dock and take a look at that vessel.
On H dock?
Yes, on H dock. And so that is my report. And then want to give a report on the billboards?
Sure. I have a couple of things. Yeah, as noted by the public, a billboard fell down, which is clearly in the tidelands. It was like the day before Thanksgiving. The legal nuances are kind of complicated. I'm not going to get into it all right now, but I'll just let you know what we did is we put a notice on the fallen billboard itself that the district should be contacted regarding potential permit requirements, and we also sent a letter to the owner of the billboard. saying that they should apply for a permit. So our intent is to get a permit application from them for rebuilding it and get other information about the billboard itself so we can deliberate internally about what the permit requirements will be from the Harbor District. We're also coordinating with Coastal Commission and other agencies regarding the billboard.
Yeah, like Caltrans Lands
Yeah,
Division.
we've been in touch with Caltrans.
Yeah, because they keep giving them a free pass. So
Yeah.
there's kind of like, this could be like part of, oh, I'm not supposed to go on.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts about it, which I'm happy to get into individually after the meeting or at like an agendized item for the board, but just to update you that we are.
Let's put this on
We
for
are
next.
following up.
Let's put this on for next time.
Yeah.
It'll be perking by then.
Sure. I just wanted to follow up also at a previous meeting, maybe in September, the board authorized us to release a request for letters of interest on the subtitle areas of the pre-permitting project from agriculture. Those areas already permitted out on the peninsula here. The deadline for that was November 15th, and I don't want to get into a lot of details about the letters of interest we got because there's negotiations occurring and stuff, but just so you know, it's a very positive response. We did get interest from both shellfish and seaweed culturists, very serious interest, and farmers that want to do both. So I'm moving forward with sort of negotiating meetings with those operators. So it's very positive response to happen. In the next month or two, I should be able to report in more detail what we're looking at out there.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
No, I said thanks, Adam.
So far, but
Okay, I'll give my report from here, everybody, and helping out the camera tonight. Based on some prior meetings, we had gone ahead and we've got a little bit of feedback, and Todd shared with us tonight. We've got other feedback about some of the security issues around the marina. So we kind of did a breakwater to IDOC evaluation, and just based on our walking around, visited with different tenants, and a few phone calls. And tenant feedback was really sought out to prioritize some passive safety things we could do on the island. So we did some adjustments to our lighting, having them come on a little earlier in the day. We've increased some of the lamps. We did quite a bit of tree limbing. We did some brush thinning around the perimeter of the project. We relocated a kayak box rather, that was allowing for a hidden parking stall in which people would go and park and camp and do some other unwanted activities on our property. And we're taking a lot of other actions to discourage squatters, the daily walks and drives around the property, the perimeter of the property. This is just a photograph of where we scooted over the kayak boxes to eliminate a couple of parking stalls were in there. We lifted the limbs on the trees to provide a good clear view to the Embarcadero and the marina, and that's from one end of the marina to the other, because we have to be down closer to IDOC. We increased the lumens in our lamps, so we've gone to greater lumens and a brighter white Kelvin. So as we replace lamps, we're really creating a lot more of light that hits the ground here in the marina. And this is a picture, I had that slide a little better earlier, that's all right. This is a picture of a gentleman going into our wildlife area. This is an everyday occurrence. Oftentimes we'll see clothing or blankets or other things hanging to be dried. And so the next slide I'll talk about an area along the wildlife area. We recently had a wildfire crew come in to help us thin and prune quite a bit of the fallen brush and take care of the tree brush that was coming through the fence line. We have a number of fallen limbs and a couple of smaller trees and overhanging branches that took out sections of the fence, along with those areas that have just simply been trampled as people make their way in there to house themselves. And so we've started to clear this area in limited swaths to try to get in there, get the fence repaired, collect what belongings of others we bring out of those areas, and ultimately discourage access. As many of you know, the crew that I had working on it got a little out of the boundary. I was contacted by an official who came to visit me and said, hey, I think we need to limit your access there, so we stopped immediately, brought the work just back to the fence line. But at some and had a very good dialogue with him. But at some point in time, we have to take a little bit more aggressive action in there to keep those areas clean to the degree that we're able to. And then finally at RMP1, crab season's happening. That's pretty excited. Maybe it's delayed in some areas, but nonetheless the fishermen are very busy to get going. So we're using this opportunity to clear all the debris off the docks out there. As we reported in the past, there's just a lot of old remaining storage from people that no one really wants to claim, so we've been clearing those up. I didn't show you before and after because the before doesn't look real great. But we're cleaning those out. We're sorting materials for recycling. There's a couple of fishermen that have claimed some things that they'll try to reuse. We're also going to install a drive lane in steel down RMP1. RMP1 is coming to a little, how would you say it, the end of its useful life. So we're doing those measures we can to keep that open, available to our fishermen. We're going to begin locking the gate to control access just to those authorized operators that we have there on the dock. The other properties are doing great, so I did report a lot of those this week. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
District Council?
No report.
Nada. No report from Mark. Commissioners? Commissioner Doss.
Not a lot to report. I did have an opportunity to have be part of a breakfast meeting this morning with the Nordic, is it
Aquaculture.
California, is the new name? Yeah, California Marine Investment. Yeah.
California Marine Investment.
Yeah. There must be a DBA or something that's got Nordic. Anyway, we had breakfast this morning, and it was an encouraging meeting. I think it's exciting they're moving forward. Of course, the pace of how projects move forward is very slow, at least in my definition. So they're moving forward, and they're pleased with the pace, and so hope for the best for that. That's really about it. It's I want to congratulate St. Bernard's High School for one of the HDN football teams of making the state championship game. We played Saturday night here at Humboldt State, and Del North High School is playing their state championship game too. The first time two teams from the same conference are playing in state finals, and they're coming from Humboldt and Del North League, so that's pretty cool.
This is the first time they've played a state championship in Humboldt County.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, and Del North's supposed to be hosting there too, so
Commissioner Coleman.
Pretty exciting. Let's see, Executive Director and Greg and I all went down to San Francisco last month for a meeting with Innovation Norway and the Norwegian Consulate, which was really interesting. Learned a lot about different things that are happening around the world in ports, some with a lot of similarities and differences to Humboldt Bay, and that there is a lot of interest in Humboldt Bay from entities to do development here and do work here is interesting. Other than that,
how'd your electric car parade go?
Thank you for asking, Pat.
There we go.
I'll have to ask you about the Eel River when it comes down to your time. So at work at the Blue Lake Rancheria, we held our inaugural electric vehicle expo and parade to kind of just help normalize these new vehicles that maybe someday we'll all be driving. They're pretty exciting. It was sparsely attended. The weather wasn't great, and maybe doing it on a holiday weekend wasn't the best. I'm being honest here, but we did get quite a few people coming, and were interested. And then the parade, the highlight of the parade was having the Humboldt Transit Authority new electric bus there, and we decorated that up with lights, and then we had another 12 electric vehicles of different types. I think there are 4 different manufacturers and 1 electric bicycle, and we paraded around Blue Lake, and people were pretty excited. It looked really cool, and we're starting to talk about our 2nd annual one and what we can do to make it bigger. I refrain from calling it Stephen and Friends Electric Car Parade, and The temptation was there, but I won't even say it. And then, let's see, I've been out recreational crabbing once this year so far. So I had crab for Thanksgiving, which was fun with my mom visiting, hoping to get out again this weekend and hope that the commercial people, it looks like they're going to be getting out there soon, so that's good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Marks.
Well, I haven't been crabbing, but I've been crabby. And that's till the holidays, but I don't have much to report on, but I would like to give a little history of the North Coast Rail Authority. I just spent my last year as the chair of the North Coast Rail Authority, and before this last year, I was at a meeting down south, and I made a mention about an excursion train being planned maybe around the bay. Senator Mike McGuire's chief of staff got up and said, Mr. Marks, you talked about an excursion train around the bay. I will ask you to resign your position on the North Coast Rail Authority immediately, because this is now a trail authority. And if anybody else on this board, it's a 9-person board, has the same idea as Mr. Marks, you will be removed from this board. Okay, this last year, I've been president. They've replaced almost every single member, 9 members, and you have to, these are members that are council people, coastal commissioners, city council mayors, and all sorts of 9 different people from the different states that are in the North Coast Rail Authority. It has all changed over, and I've never seen anything like it in government. They wanted to make sure that everybody who was on that board was going to be pro-trail. Just so happens yesterday they had a reappointment for Humboldt. I was reappointed again by Humboldt, which was kind of a surprise. Estelle Fennell was replaced by Sonoma Drum, and that was because of his expertise on trail. And so it's going to happen. The Great Redwood Trail is happening. I felt kind of nerve-wracked because paying bills with no money coming in with the NCRA. We just got approval for $500,000 from the state, but it actually has to go through the California Transportation Commission and also Caltrans. And then it is kind of wild, but there will be enough to pay staff at least to keep it going until the complete transition into a rail authority. I mean, a trail authority. God, what are we doing? So that's it for my report.
Thank you. Always interesting history lesson.
I want to commend Richard for his commitment to the NCRA. I mean, I think both of us have, one of our greatest assets these days is talent for boredom. But, Richard has been pushing for trails from the inside for forever, and the fact that they have the wrong book on him, that's pretty funny. But I guess they got the right book because he's still there. And thank you for your service in that.
Hey, what's happening on the Hill River, Pat?
Okay. The Hill River, we didn't get enough rain. The salmon got around. They got out of Fortuna. We got to fix the habitat in the lower river. Runs kind of weak. Ocean kind of went to where there's like different species of krill. So I like to be the good news guy, but I actually have to say that the eel and Chinook, it's like underperforming. But there's several thousand fish in the basin. Anybody who wants a picture of the old river, the windows on a beautiful river on their wall every day, I'm packing. $10. Join the recovery project, $25. That's okay, isn't it? Crash sales here on the dais. Yeah. I would like to look forward to 2020. And for the first meeting of the year, we're having kind of an embedded discussion here on the wildlife area. And I feel like I've been like Rip Van Winkle since 2015. I must have been asleep because we were talking about this, and then like I went to sleep, and then the issue went to sleep. I'm not happy with invasive species out here overrunning the place. The deer don't even swim out here anymore to eat the grass because there's no grass underneath the invasives. If this was a little warmer, that would be a serious fire hazard. And so it's time for us to rock this forward and have the wildlife potential of the wildlife area realized. We need to get rid of non-native species and systematically and very, very carefully over several years improve the habitat to all it can be. Because, there isn't a lot of riparian habitat that's rookery habitat. And if we basically choose the species right, then we can kind of duplicate there what's disappearing on Indian Island. And like it or not, we're in charge of evolution. And a lot of these trees that are out there and, constantly overrunning with the blackberries. And so we want to go to process-based to where we get the natural veg and the birds and everything uses it, but it doesn't take a lot of management. The problem is nature doesn't like a lawn. Nature's going to put invasive species out there all the time. And so periodically, we're going to have to mow it. Or get a bunch of cows or, something that perpetuates a state of grass. And so in other words, I'm not supposed to talk about this a lot today. It's not on the agenda. I want it on the agenda next time. I do have some thoughts on this.
Done.
And then two other things. I have talked to Adam, and I'm really, really encouraged that we might set up some easements that might actually trigger fishing game to back off on Seesaw and let us use a suction dredge. And also, I know that from Gilk Falcone, they're okay with us putting sediment out there, and they want to get rid of the liner restriction, but we have to work the politics. And so I want these on every agenda that we do between now and July 2020. The longfin smelt and how to get the permit, and can we swap easements for it? And then can we put the dredge spoils on the peninsula without a liner? And that still leaves another big ticket, and that is eelgrass. But I like Adam's idea of take these systematically, and there's no one better at diplomacy, and there's nobody that has better command of the issues, so I have full confidence in Adam, but I want reports. Because, I could have swore we were going to get started on this in July 15, 2018, and then, went through my fingers like quicksilver. Okay, great.
Thanks, man.
But we need to get traction on this, because this is make or break, and it's time we took the burden off the back of the people of the marina for the situation and make it a bearable cost that we can integrate into our normal way of doing business.
Do you have something more?
Yeah, I forgot.
Oh, geez. Okay, come on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I work for the Construction Industry Force Account Council, and I had a investigation in Colusa County, and what they were doing was self-performing a job in a creek bed called Stony Creek over there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, in Stony Creek, they also have, they have to, with their permits, they have to have a take for the yellow-legged frog.
Oh, yeah.
And for the stony turtle or something like that in that area.
Stone turtle.
So in that area,
Western Fund.
I actually was asking for maybe a work stoppage or something because they didn't have any permits or anything. And no, they let them just go ahead and do their work. And, the frogs, hey, they're gone now. And the turtles, I'm like, wait a sec. We're asked for a fish take over here to use to use our dredge, but they can come over here and just destroy the environment and animals, and nobody says anything. And I'm even writing about it. You guys are doing it.
Okay, Pat, thank you.
Okay. It's hypocrisy at its worst as far as the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Thank you.
You betcha. So I too attended the Australian consulate meetings and found it extremely interesting. Extremely interested that.
Which consulate were you at?
Norwegian, baby.
Oh yeah, no, I got Australia on the mind. How's that?
They were up the block. They were having a better party, I guess.
Oh yeah. Woo.
Fried koalas.
Yeah. No, Australia's a place to go this time of year, not Norway.
Okay.
Anyways, it was genuinely eye-opening to know that, to realize that there's people from around the world that are looking at this place and know about us. So it was, I think it was very enlightening, and wish that project the best. So that's all I have. I'm going to move on to.
I'll just add one thing.
Oh my God, Pat, go ahead.
is that, yes, is that, at the Norwegian Consulate's office, had said, yeah, they want to come out to Humboldt. That's what the consulates, they told us that they want to come out in February, is what they're saying, that they're planning on it. And then this morning, when we were meeting with Nordic Aqua Farms, they had said that, yeah, we've been working with the Norwegian Consulate's office, and they want to come up here in February as well. And that they're hoping that they're going to bring a delegation from Norway up here along with them, potentially getting somebody from the ambassador's office from Washington, D.C., because they definitely have their eye on Humboldt. And it's not just Norway, other people. And so it is refreshing to hear that people are truly interested in Humboldt Bay and are looking at doing good, clean, environmentally sound, projects with union labor and all of these things that we've been talking about for a long time. And so nothing happens overnight, but we are trying to build relationships with other entities and other ports.
Thank you, Larry. I think that's accurate, 100%. So moving on, 10A, Fishing Community Sustainability Pre-Planning.
And so I wanted to, we had...
Lori's here.
Oh,
Lori, you get 3 minutes, baby, not a second more. You were...
You want to listen to Larry? That's all right.
No, you can jump in anytime.
No, jump up there. Jump up there.
You can go over the recommendations. So basically, these reports, they were just finalized. And so it's something that we had talked about wanting to keep this fresh in our minds, is we've been focusing a lot on, kind of the aquaculture and the mariculture pre-permitting and upland-based aquaculture operations. We also have strategies that have been really focusing on the offshore wind and the port development and other things. And as part of that conversation, we keep saying we need to make sure we keep our eye on the commercial and recreational fishing sectors and really refine and develop our strategies for those, because we want to have strategies for all the different sectors of our economic base, and then work for synergies that can happen between those different entities so that we can get cross-investment between like the Nordic and the commercial fishermen and the wind energy and the commercial fishermen and all of these different things working together and cooperatively with these. And so wanted to kind of do a little bit of focus on this, and when I was writing this report was saying this came out right before the crab season, and crab fishermen are really busy, this time of year, and this isn't really the time for us to truly engage them and really expect them to come out and spend a lot of time with us. But it's the perfect time for us. We're not crab fishermen. We can begin to analyze and get our act together so that when they have their time that's freed up, then we're prepared to meet with them. And so I was looking at this as kind of a pre-planning session where we can begin to get ourselves organized so that when the crab fishermen have time, then, or the rest of the fishermen get time, then we're more prepared to begin the engagement with them.
And then in the Cove, we got a letter, and they say they want a meeting there. So that's the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with the Shelter Cove community, we were engaged with them.
We are engaged with them.
We are engaged with them. And in my opinion, they're superstars. It's been a great year for me as far as Shelter Cove goes, and it really gets down to is I really haven't had one phone call about us having to do something in Shelter Cove.
Well, the rainy season's almost over, so get ready for more.
Get ready for some more. And so
Hey Jake, what's going on, man? Shelter Cove is in the house.
Yeah, they really stepped up to the plate and relieved a lot of issues from the Harbor District. And it truly epitomized to me part of what these studies were saying, which is to do a bottom-up approach that's really initiated by the fishermen themselves and having them taking control and then telling us what it is that they need, and then us trying to find ways of how we can assist them instead of the harbor district thinking we know, have all the answers, and that we can sort of forge the pathway. And so, in my mind, I am the first person to say, I'm not an expert in this area. I don't know these issues. What my area of expertise is trying to clear permit hurdles, clear barriers for people so that they can run their businesses and we can help them to run their businesses. I try to stay out of people's businesses all I can and just try to help them out as much as we can. And so, you want to just go over these bullet points from your recommendation really quick? It is saving me a lot of time. So
Lori.
Sure, I didn't come here to present. I'm happy to answer questions.
So this is the City of Eureka's sustainability plan.
Yeah, so Eureka kind of organized their plan in kind of 4 categories. The first was kind of infrastructure and services. So protect marine dependent uses, a big priority to kind of make sure that waterfront space isn't lost. Cold storage and ice facility, another one that came up from everybody, and I don't think any of these are mysteries. Dredging, which you guys are already talking about, sort of a long-term sustainable plan for dredging so it doesn't become an emergency thing all the time. The mariculture folks that we talked to, pre-permitting and permit streamlining were priorities. So again, things Harbor District is working on. Gear storage and also security, another big priority, and that's actually something some of the mariculture folks talked about too, maybe having a designated space. Dock and marina maintenance, so keeping up with that. The folks we talked to at the Wiyot tribe also expressed a priority of having a permanent dock at Tuluwat as something they'd like to see infrastructure-wise. Market analysis and development was another priority, especially kind of thinking for better avenues to buy locally and sell locally, caught fish locally, was a big thing, and I actually might be working with some undergraduates to kind of look at that puzzle piece next semester. Is there another one? Access to commercial fish resources. So there's a big concern about the overdependence on crab here locally. Like 60% of ex-vessel value, and so with so much uncertainty happening with crab all the time, kind of wanting to diversify, whether that's through, a lot of that is political processes through open access quota, or you can, other ports have started a community quota fund where they buy quota and can lease it to fishermen. Representation, leadership, and policy engagement was just like kind of a big slush bucket of like, we heard from a lot of people that people aren't always getting along as well as they could on the waterfront. There's a lot of factions kind of even within the fishing community. So a lot of that is kind of about building capacity, building relationships with the public too, like through fish festivals or things like that. Some great stuff Shelter Cove's doing with that. Developing that aspect and policy engagement, having a broader swath of people involved in policy, sometimes just a few people from the fishing community. Recruit and retain new fishermen, so worrying about graying of the fleet, the average age of commercial fishermen getting older, so thinking about some policies to do that. But even just in the last year, there's been some new blood coming into Eureka, which is exciting, and younger people becoming captains. Habitat restoration and protection, a big priority, I think, especially people are thinking about salmon for this one. Water quality protection for mariculture especially. And then collaborative research related to marine resources and changing ocean conditions, and that's thinking about sea level rise and how it might affect port infrastructure, marine heat waves, toxic algae blooms, ocean acidification. So just kind of encouraging the fishing community to sort of get engaged and encourage some of this research to help them be able to understand and adapt.
Thank you, Lori.
And so then with this is then we, one of the things we just put together this little sketch, which is that we have the existing fisherman's work area, but we already have an existing permit. The Harbor District has a permit to do a dock extension. And what this sort of shows is that this is just a concept of what we could look at doing is putting an extension on the work dock and basically having an expanded storage yard in the grassy area in the back, which would have direct access, for the fishermen so that they could have storage area directly to the work dock, and have these access pathways that would go in there. And this is just a concept of what was laid out, taking some of the concepts that were in the report and where potential funding mechanisms could do, and then how we might be able to take a look and then see how we could put it into action. And this is just a concept. I'm not saying that we should do this. This is just more of an illustrative example, and then to hear what, fishermen might want to see and have for themselves. And part of the reason why we looked at this is because the RMT1 is falling apart, and for us, if we could consolidate services in one place, then we could provide better services for the fishing community as opposed to being spread out all over the place. And so I'll just quickly go over these real quick. This is Shelter Cove, and it's very similar to the Eureka, but of course Shelter Cove is unique and completely independent from Eureka. And so Fishing Industry Organization and Association, they did form the Shelter Cove Fishermen's Preservation Incorporated, which was part of that implementation measure. And then Reliable Sustainable Launch, we did the lease agreement with them. The fish cleaning station improvements, we've applied for the permits. We've actually received the permits from the coastal development permits to do and we've applied for an amendment to do a composting operation for the fish carcasses. That's still pending. And we have a grant for those improvements that we got the extension from and other things.
Yeah, and we amended the grant to do composting rather than treating of the carcasses.
Mm-hmm.
But we're
So,
still working on the CDP.
On those first three, we've been actively working with Shelter Cove to implement and continue to do so. They need ice facilities, cold storage, processing. One of the big things is that the fish cleaning station is recreational fishermen, and when you start adding the commercial, then there's a whole layer of regulations that in cleanliness and other standards that you have when you run a commercial operation, which is different than a recreational facility. Right? And so general control of the marina property, we entered into a lease agreement with them where we transferred that over to them, but we want, the next step is trying to get more permanent control of the marina facility. Traffic circulation and parking improvements, because it's bottlenecked in that area. Boat ramp maintenance. Last year there was the storms, there was damage to the breakwaters, and this spring we need to get back down there and make sure the ramps are cleaned off and make sure that our facilities are maintained. Market evaluation and opportunities. A fish buyer, it's a major problem out of Shelter Cove with the commercial fishermen is getting access to market. They had one fish buyer, my understanding, that was from the Bay Area, that would come up and buy fish a couple of days a week. But getting improved access, direct access to the market for the Shelter Cove fishermen is really critical. And then in order to do that, the road going in and out of Shelter Cove is tough. You got to have access. If you have slide outs and other things, it's hard to operate a business if you don't have reliable road network and other aspects. And so, similar to Eureka, recruiting and retaining new participants, access to regulations, government regulations. One of the things that's amazing is Shelter Cove and the tourism sector has really been taking off, and how that works with the charter boat operators and just really helping to diversify the local economy with recreational fishermen and tourism has really been a dramatic improvements. I think there's one more. And then these other, which is access to low interest rate loans, bait and tackle, having kayak and surfboard rentals, security of the storage areas and other items, moorings. The Harbor District, has the Tideland lease in Shelter Cove, being able to put some moorings out there similar to Trinidad, so that they could access those so they don't have to launch every time. And then, is there a market for fish carcasses? These were some of the recommendations that were included in the report, and really just wanted to bring these to the board's attention, and then to see about getting continually engaged in both the Shelter Cove community and the Eureka fishermen to see how we can actually begin to try to develop some plans and strategies to implement some of these things. So I truly appreciate you taking over and being here.
It's great
I
to
say
hear
a
you
few
guys
words?
talking about it.
So, we actually have, like, to your point, and we're kind of, most of us on the board down there have either half of them work with the tractors or charter boat captains, so we're kind of getting out our busy season and kind of getting back into it. We have started developing, which I haven't even really had a chance to share with our whole board yet, but is a Shelter Cove Marina Restoration Project. We're kind of breaking it down into 3 phases, so I guess in essence we'll be taking some of that work off of your hands. Obviously, the first item in that 3-phase project would be the composter. We even came up with some drawings and stuff, so I would ask that, like, as we move forward with the planning and that stuff, that maybe we could be more involved. Because we have thought about it a lot, and we've taken measurements, we've got drawings to support it all, and got the community feedback. So yeah, I guess just keep us in the loop. You'll be hearing from us more now that we're not as busy. And
Thanks, Jake.
but we are working on it, and once that's finalized, I'll send it to you
We're
all.
definitely open to your ideas, Jake, and I want to thank you, Matt, for, helping put the Fishing Preservation Association together, stepping up for your community, and being innovative and resourceful. I realize that as they make a move from, like, ground up fish waste in the tide pools to the composter, that we need to be right next to you, kind of running alongside of you, because you're still on, no disrespect, but like bicycle with training wheels.
Yeah.
And we're going into a different phase. Now, the good news is that California's fire crisis is now triggering huge climate change initiative grants. They call them CCI, and CDF doesn't like to administer stuff, so the minimum one is $4 million. Okay, so all of those hills that are overstocked on Telegraph Ridge and in that whole vicinity that you guys need to manage for reduction of fire risk and for forest health and improvement of water availability is going to have the stream of chips that you need, and they got to get rid of them. And so that should be like free. And if you can mix the fish waste with free chips and turn out a value-added product, then we got something going. But I realize what I just said is like easy to say and hard to line up. And so anybody that's hitting for forest health on BLM or with the Resort Improvement District or with private landowners, you should nail them immediately and say, what are you doing with that stuff that you're chopping down? Because usually they got to put it in giant piles and then they got to burn it. And that's a lot of work. And so, like, if you say, well, chip it near the roadside and we can bring it to that may work. And so, at any rate, that's one of the things there where this is a whole new experiment, and I think we're on the right path with the composter, and I think it's going to work, but we want to be there to make sure that we can assist in transition. That's what I like to see.
So Patrick, one of the recommendations is that the staff recommends the board listen to the report, and put an agenda item together, study sessions, some sort of way we can assist with this planning process. Is that what you want to do?
Yes. We'll establish one in Shelter Cove. There'd be separate meetings. One in Shelter Cove, and then one in Eureka area. And that we would then meet with the fishermen. First, staff would begin to meet with them to cultivate those, and then to have them with the board, that we could focus on those issues.
Yeah, and you can help shape the agenda for that meeting, Jake.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I think Justin sent an email to you asking that. Another thing I was going to say too is, like, we are 501c3. It took us a long time, but in July we got it. So we are eligible for grants and all that sort of good stuff. I think the next step in our whole process, like really before a whole lot of this infrastructure really gets talked about on a serious note, is trying to get some long-term deal in place for control of the property. And that's probably where we'll be talking over the next year, I'm sure, about your guys' long-term plans and how we can work all that.
help
That's
us
the first step, is trying to,
Absolutely.
because I don't think we're into getting a bunch of grant funding to put on someone else's property. We'll ask what we own for rent and all that.
The California Resources Legacy Foundation should be smiling on you guys for helping remediate the fish waste problem. So I would think that they might be a benefactor if you have.
Yeah, like we kind of, just real quick, like in this, in our restoration project, we broke it down, and kind of in our drawings and our recommendations, we have added a little bit to the composter project that would all kind of be interconnected. But it would be our idea, like when we're talking about it, that possibly we could come up with some matching funds or something to make it, you know, kind of what we want, rather than just a simple composter, you know, make it, you know, maybe an office in a building that we're attached to it, but we could come up with some of those funds as well.
That's all part of the discussion that'll happen at these sessions. Perfect.
Sure.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for, Laura, you'll be a part of that as well?
Yeah, I'm available, I would love to, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, once we get this report finished, I'll email it to you guys too, and you can check it out.
Okay.
I got like a half an hour presentation.
I had to give you a hard time after the last one. Come on, man. Okay. So, I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken on this as far as a motion. Is there any comments from the board? Any other comments from the board?
Do we have any ideas of schedule when we're going to be scheduling that meeting down in Shelter Cove and up here, or we'll start talking about it again at the agendized item next time?
Well, historically, and I'm certainly not an expert in this, is that, you know, you have the crop season, and then April, May, I think is when, so I would say, generally speaking, the low is usually between February and March is the time period.
Yeah, that would be,
Okay.
we get more fishermen trying to go.
We'll have it on the agenda at our January meeting, and then we'll plan for that meeting at that point in time. Probably Justin, we should include Justin in the Cove, and then City of Eureka here.
Okay.
We'll work on that. Seeing no more comments from the board, anybody from the audience like to comment on this?
I have a quick thing to say.
Step up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Larry was mentioning, my name is Jeremy Laros. I built the concrete bar down on Dock H. And one thing I just wanted to add to that was that the only way I was able to bring that vessel to creation was with the help of the Harbor District, and I hope you guys would recognize that when considering the permanency of my lease. That's it.
Okay, thanks. All right, moving on. We're done with that one. 10B, update regarding the Samoa Peninsula infrastructure financing.
I want to give you guys an update of kind of what we've been working on. That's it.
No more
Yeah.
slides?
So then the...
Drive careful, man.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Jake. Merry Lori.
So we've been working on the Samoa, kind of with the Redwood Marine Terminal 2 and the Redwood Marine Terminal 1, and then the town of Samoa is working on it, and Fairhaven is working on their property, and Green Diamond is working on their property. You have all these different property owners that are basically independently working together. And when you look at the Samoa Peninsula and you say, look, we want to have economic development out there, the reality is that there is no wastewater treatment plant out there currently, and everything is on a septic system. In particular, in Fairhaven and the town of Samoa, the leach fields are in low-lying areas, and it's not good for water quality. And then, you know, it's not good to have industrial activities and then having septic systems in general. There's one thing is to have a residential, relatively small system, but when you have a commercial or an industrial system and you're on a septic system, especially when you're in really close proximity to the bay or groundwater supplies, it's just kind of a recipe for disaster, because you never know what's going to go down the drain, and it doesn't go through a traditional treatment plant process. It just goes directly into the ground. And so, effectively, the Water Quality Control Board does not allow any new leach fields to be to take place on the small peninsula. And so effectively, in addition to the coastal the industrial restrictions and other things, if you can't have a bathroom, then you can't have developments on the small peninsula. And so basically the town of Samoa has a wastewater treatment plant approved as part of that, and we're working to connect to the ocean outfall for discharge. Again, the plan that was presented to the Coastal Commission, which was the wastewater treatment plant would have groundwater infiltration into it. The Water Quality Control Board wanted to have them use the ocean outfall instead of having the wastewater treatment plant discharge into the groundwater. And so then our ocean outfall pipe has a number of different benefits that go with it. Some of the other things is the water supply system, the fire system was out over the last year. The whole infrastructure system on the Samoa Peninsula is in a severely degraded system. And so with the county, the Harbor District, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, and the Community Service District, we've been meeting regularly about how can we potentially get together to try to upgrade the infrastructure on the Samoa Peninsula to make it ready for some of the future development, the infill development that we've been working to try to attract in. And so what's currently happening, each of the different entities, we met a month ago, and then we're meeting again, I believe it's next week again. And so and HSU is doing a preliminary report for us, which is going to look at like an organizational structure of how we might be able to work together to try to do a financing plan to fund some of these infrastructure improvements. And the infrastructure improvements, the very first and foremost one that we were looking at was really the industrial water supply line that goes out to the Samoa Peninsula. Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District estimated, I believe it was approximately $3 million worth of improvements just to get the valves, the pumps, and the other things of the pipe between the Essex Lane and the Samoa Peninsula, just to get it into usable form. And so how is that $3 million going to be funded? And then other improvements, if we were going to do turbidity reduction facilities or other kinds of things. And so we're actively working together to try to come up with a scenario, and then the first draft of the report is supposed to come out sometime within, I don't want to overestimate, the initial estimate was by the end of January, but it appears like we're a little bit ahead of schedule on that. So by the end of January, we should have the first report on what an organizational structure might be. I want to point out that the residents of Samoa got together at the last election and they formed a full community service district. The fire protection district became a full-fledged community service district. And that community service district is now charged and has the authority for wastewater. They would take over the wastewater treatment plant from the town of Samoa, recreation, water, industrial water supplies, essentially a full-fledged community service district like you might think of Manila Community Service District, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, or McKinleyville Community Service District. Really a full-fledged community service district that the voters of Samoa approved, and it's in the process right now of being finally formed. The issue is when they formed it, there's no revenue that's set in, no tax revenues at all, not one penny of tax revenues beyond what the fire protection district was previously allocated to support this new community service district. And so part of this is not trying to invent a new governmental structure, but rather there is this community service district that's formed, has no funding mechanism. How can we, as other governmental entities, work together to build them up? And in addition to that, the water district needs a little help with the industrial water line. The Harbor District has the docks and the other facilities, the ocean outfall line. We have our facilities, and can we come up with a funding mechanism that we can work together to try to improve these, upgrade the systems that we otherwise wouldn't be able to independently afford to do on our own. And so I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail on the specific mechanisms because that will come out of these reports. But I really wanted to just let you know that at these meetings, the City of Eureka, City of Arcata representatives, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, the County of Humboldt, Harbor District, and the Community Service District are all meeting together to try to cooperatively work together.
Very good. Thanks, Mike. Any comments from the board?
Yeah. Just a clarification that the residents for the town of Samoa did not get to vote on this. It was the residents of Fairhaven and Finntown. And because all the people that live in Samoa are renters. And so it was actually Dan Johnson as representative to have.
You're only one property. You're only one piece of property.
And the problem with this, and I was on the Samoa Peninsula Fire District for years before I ran for Harbor District, and we were talking about the Community Service District back then, was we've had big meetings in the peninsula because the people who live in Fairhaven, they don't want to give up their septic tanks. It's the cheapest way out for them. A $20,000 hookup to a sewage system does not make them happy. Of course, they tried what do they call those mounds that were finally made illegal, Wisconsin mounds, that they couldn't get the people permitted for those. And so there's still an issue. They're putting together the the apartments in Samoa and hoping to get the secondary treatment plant ready for hookup by November of next year. I don't know if they're going to make that timeline. And Jen, you were with me when the leach field failed, weren't you? On the on the west side, we had a very bad problem that they looked like we were going to have to close down the whole west side of Samoa because the leach field failed. And they need something. They need a secondary treatment plant. And that town is. If anybody ever went out there and take a look, you can go by the post office and take a look at the filtration system that they have there for the sewage. It's an old redwood bark filtered tanks that actually clarify for the town of Samoa, and then they go to the leach fields. It's not a healthy situation.
Thank you. That was riveting.
Well, let's talk to the guy who has a sewage system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? I got to give him a hard time tonight because he's cranky.
So really, the only thing driving this deal right now is the money coming from Danco. And so then they need public partners, and they need more buy-in from people on the peninsula. So, I mean, you know what? This is going to be before us again.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Greg.
Can I take it to the audience now? Step up to the microphone and identify yourself once again.
My name is Jeremy Laros. So I don't know how out of place this might be, but HSU is really advanced in their composting, and I don't know if it might be worth talking to them, and they do have a lot of revenue. So it might be small enough scale to discuss potential composting of the sewer, which would be a good step or a good direction to go. First thing that comes to mind.
Thank you. Any other comments from you? Do you want?
I mean, I don't know.
Do you want to talk? Come, step up to the microphone. Identify yourself. Again, Patrick?
Just for reference, and about how they're going to pay for this, Dan Johnson is actually going to be paying for the Community Service District until it actually is able to make money on its own. So, they'll have to take care of the sewage and the water and recreation, like you were saying. And once those components are all in there and they start making revenue, then
I'll say something and then we'll move on, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, no, I'm
Why
gonna
you
say
don't?
something. Because I have this. So this is exciting, and I think it's not going to be easy. The whole project has not been easy. I think Danco has honestly stepped up in so many ways, so many times. But this is going to be another one of those, and it's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be beneficial for all those on the peninsula, even those in Finntown who have to have a $20,000 hookup are going to be relieved that they have a real septic system, a real sewer system, not a failing septic tank.
Was that pun intended with relief?
No, actually, I actually know quite a bit about this on the about potential discharges from the sewers on the peninsula or the septic systems on the peninsula, and even the areas where they are failing, they are really not affecting the inner channel or the bay. There's very, very you can't find a problem, and I've looked. Anyways, so moving on. Thank you very much for that one. Item 10C, consideration of resolution 2019-17, a resolution designating the executive director and deputy director of the Humboldt Bay Harbor Recreation Conservation District to be authorized agents to engage with the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Governor's Office of Emergency Services regarding grants and reimbursements.
So moved.
Have a motion second. Any discussion?
This is so that the staff can submit grants on that's the purpose of this resolution.
Claims. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's correct. So it'll allow, I think, for a 3-year period that we can submit grant applications and accept money and meet and all that for FEMA-related funding after emergencies. We currently have applications in both for the chain recovery activities that were done by Sterling and by us to refund us for that. We also have an application to pay for some of the dredging we've done because during the storms there was more sediment accumulated in the marina than a typical year. So we're pursuing funding now, and this will allow us to accept the funding if we get it.
I'm in favor of accepting funding.
And pursue future funding.
Adam, does this pertain to the funding you got for some of the float removals and debris removals from around the bay as well?
In years past?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Good program.
Yeah.
It was actually NOAA funding, I think, or was that FEMA funding?
I think there was both. There has been,
Yeah, I think you guys got it, didn't you? Weren't you the applicant? So no more comments from the board. Any from the audience? All right, we have a motion and a second.
Roll call.
Huh? Yeah.
Roll call.
I was getting there.
Roll call?
Jesus. This is a roll call? Is this a resolution?
Mr. House,
Everybody's punchy today.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Higgins,
Yes.
and Mr. Marks,
Aye.
President Dale.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Are there any administrative and emergency permits?
No, there's not.
So I would like to wish from all of us at the Humboldt Bay Harbor Recreation and Conservation District a very joyous and peaceful holiday. Please think of those less fortunate, and may I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. We'll see you next year.
How quaint. Thank you. Very kind.